Yep. So as you kind of slash in, like you open up a big section of his gut, and it's just like, um, it's not and like things don't start spilling out at this point, but you can kind of see the amount of fat like lining his stomach.
Slash across the stomach. He's just going to take another slash into the same cut and just try and cut a bit deeper into that big crevasse of
Yeah, there's big
flesh.
ogre guts on the floor.
So you kind of go one way with the first strike, opening him up, and then just like slowly drag your blade across the cut once more, and you start to see like innards spilling across like
Oh
the
yeah.
front of this ogre, who's still like completely erect, still standing there.
Whoa, that's
Direct.
he's enjoying it a little
Um,
too much.
and is looking a little bit woozy and bloodied and all those sorts of things, but is still very much in the fight at this point.
Oh
Ogre
damn!
like pain.
Okay, I wanna try something. I wanna try something. What I want to do is I want to have Finn run across right up to this ogre, and in one smooth movement, pull an arrow out of his quiver, stab it into part of the intestine that he sees coming out of his stomach, and
I can see what you're gonna do here.
chuck it into his bow, and just and shoot
You sick
and
little bugger.
and shoot it as far into this direction, preferably into the arm of one of these rotating things.
Oh, this is yuck.
You sick little bugger.
Good man.
Good hell.
Okay, and what's he trying to do? Like, what's the end game of that? Is that just to pull more entrails?
Yeah,
out,
yeah, basically,
or-
yeah, effectively, yeah. It's just slowly just. Oh, I mean, shooting it. I mean, this is. I don't know how much.
The other ogre with it.
I don't know. I don't know how many intestines, how long the intestines of an ogre would be, but like I'm firing them 25 foot across the room, so I'm hoping that's gonna pull a fair bit out.
Cool. So here's what happens.
Oh god.
So Finn goes running across the floor, away from his hiding spot underneath the arms, breaks into a slide, draws an arrow from his quiver, stabs it up into the intestine of the monster, as he knocks his arrow and looses it and sends it flying in Sasha's direction, but importantly, over the handle that was previously used by the slaves to push the wheel. The wheel is still being pushed by some slaves, and it kind of ties itself around. It has enough force that it's like kind of hooked around, and so you've got this kind of taut intestine, kind of streaking out as like specks of blood and just kind of innards coat Sasha, Beta, and the White Dragon Wormling.
He's now a red dragon.
Red Dragon, his breath is canonically fire from here on out. And so there's just, so this ogre is just like, as its entrails are like splayed.
So ogre is
It's still alive.
Perfect.
Oh,
I
damn.
wanted it to still be alive.
It wishes it wasn't.
It's sadistic.
It is still alive.
That is
So sadistic.
Alf, it is your turn.
how ill is this ogre looking? That's in front of me.
Incredibly, like
I was about to say the intro
It's- its insides are basically mostly on the outside now.
how wide would you say these entrails are? A foot wide, like
Do you stand on them?
You gonna run across them?
would it be a small path wide, or are they kind of thinner? Actually, from Wolf's back, because Elsa's still sitting on Wolf's back, I'm going to basically stand up on Wolf's back, and I'm not going to jump onto the entrails because that might be a bit slippery. But what I'm going to do with fire and ice, I'm basically going to cut a segment of his entrails out. So essentially, I'm just going to come down twice and cut a section out. So I'm just like from Wolf, jumping off Wolf, come down, both swords, aiming to cut out a piece about a foot wide.
Oh.
Okay.
No, it's going to be an acrobatics check because that's dexterity. Oh!
Finn can't wait to see this unfold.
Okay.
Or face 2.0.
So here's what happens. So you take a couple of steps up, Wolf, and you go to launch yourself off of Wolf's kind of like head, shoulder, neck region, and you push down, but your foot kind of slips a little bit. Your plan was to do like 1.5 back twist. And you put like that kind of effort into it, but you kind of just you don't really get enough purchase to do any of that stuff, but you're moving in the general direction of what you're trying to do. Incredibly clumsy. It looks like he was trying to do, like how sometimes you see like videos of people trying to do a skateboard trick or something, and it's clear they have no skill, but they're doing it anyway. It's a bit like that.
Landed it.
It's, but like surprisingly, he didn't fall off, and he just lands with the swords kind of a foot apart and just severs a section of the cord.
I'm still going to look up at Finn and give him the smile and say, told you I got this.
Yeah.
But that is enough
to
to kill that ogre.
Redrawing this now loose. And that's just going to slowly forever just be dragged around this room.
Alrighty, so Igneous is just going to have a little bit of look of shock on his face as he's seen these letters just fly all over the place. And he's gonna look down to Finn and just give a little nod like he understands. And just as the ogre in front of him, who's had all his guts peeled out, just before he falls over, he's going to reach in and scoop out some of the large intestine.
Oh, gross.
And then just run with it down towards the other giant, the other ogre, and he's just gonna flick it like a whip into the ogre's face, and just yell, "Magic!
Magic!
Magic!"
So you just grab
Bigfoots.
the stomach of the dead ogre. You just run, and you're just like fling like basically a soggy noodle at this ogre, and it hits, but it does no damage because it's a soggy noodle. But it's super gross, and everyone is very upset.
Okay, so Igneous, just charged by his success that his psychological attack worked, is gonna sneak in with a quick slash to this ogre's stomach and see if he can do some magic.
You tear open one more stomach. You see like a little bit of entrail. Like, there's just like a little like bit hanging out, which is like a little. It's not like one solid piece. It's like a little hook.
Like a handle.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
no.
a handle.
Oh no. So Finn is just looking to basically saw Igneous come charging towards reach into the ogre's stomach and run off in a direction. So he's like what the? He didn't know. He had no idea what was going on. Followed Igneous across, saw the whipping of the wet kind of intestines against the ogre, and then the slash of the blade across the ogre's stomach, and he can see the damage that he's done. He's just going to call on Alpha. He's just going to yell out to Alpha to try and get Alpha's attention, and he's just going to point at the stomach as best as he can.
No.
and the only word he can do that can get any idea across is move.
So Alpha reaches his beak around this like wee handle that's sticking out of the stomach, and just takes flight. Begins flying.
Entrails flying everywhere.
Entrails trailing Alpha as he just soars higher and higher up to the ceiling with just a trail of innards following.
To be fair though, is there a attack of opportunity given to this guy?
There would be if he was not dead from.
Oh wow!
So that is enough.
Okay, so Finn looks back at this ogre, and he puts his bow on, like basically hooks it onto over the quiver, so he's not going to use it. He reaches down and he grabs his blade out of his a little dagger out of his little holster, and he holds it in front of himself, blade out the side, and he just charges the ogre with the idea just to round it all off with just like a slash right across his stomach as he runs past
Oh
him.
man!
Oh,
Oh,
I crit it. Oh,
Dude, fantastic.
crits it if we roll tonight.
That couldn't have gone any better.
And he crits the damage as well.
So as your dagger like
32.
you realize exactly how much purchase you have, and you just rip as you splay out a third ogre's entrails out onto the floor. But this time, instead of like being gradually drawn out by individuals, it's just like you run past, slice it open, and it's just like, and then it's like all out there for everybody to see. So there's just entrails everywhere, basically.
That is beautiful.